Hey everyone, it's Neil Patel, and today is another day of SEO Unlocked. And today I'm going to be covering content marketing part 1. So we're going to get into the fundamentals, and then the next lesson is going to go over step-by-step tactics that you need to implement to get results through content marketing. Before we get started, I want to let you know, don't look back and ask why, look ahead and ask why not. Because as we cover content marketing, what you'll find is a lot of companies are asking, hey, why should I end up doing it? Well, you should end up doing it because it produces results, and I have some stats to show you later on. But before we get started, let's look at the evolution of Google. What most people don't know is Google does more than one algorithm update per day. And as they've gone around over the years, they've gotten smarter and smarter, where now a lot of it is related to artificial intelligence, and they're really able to predict what humans want. If you look at Alphabet's parent structure, you'll notice that they have a lot of key initiatives that involve AI, from self-driving cars to even Google Home, that is trying to predict what you're looking for and what you want and trying to answer it, right? So it's not just their search engine that's using artificial intelligence and machine learning. And one quote that I love when it comes to content marketing is from Content Marketing Institute. I'm not going to read the whole quote, but the key point that I want to end up pointing out here in this quote is consistent content. Most people get it wrong with content marketing, which they're not consistent. And it starts with a consistent process. If your process is consistent, kind of like a machine in which you're building this machine that can continually crank out high quality content on a consistent basis, you'll do well. In other words, if you're not consistently awesome, you won't do well when it comes to your traffic. With one of my first blogs back in the day, I no longer own it. It's called Quick Sprout. I used to write content every single week. And then when I stopped for a month, I saw a 30+% dip in traffic, and it took me over 3 months just to recover that loss in traffic. That's how important it is to be consistent. Content marketing is also on the rise. It's getting more popular over time. A quick stat for you is there's over 1 billion blogs on the web. That's roughly one blog for every 7 people. People wouldn't be creating all these blogs if it wasn't producing a positive ROI. So why is content marketing important? I'll go over a few of the main bullet points. Conversion rates are 6 times higher for adopters against non-adopters. It results into increased brand awareness. 91% of B2B marketers use content marketing, so it's not just for B2C, it's also for B2B as well. 27% of US internet users now have ad blocking installed. So you're not going to get to as many people as you're used to through ads. So content marketing is another way to attract more people. And if you adapt, you can win. It's a great way to compete against the bigger corporations. And that's what I really got into, is because when you have little to no budget and you want to compete with the big guys, ads are expensive, but content marketing is a good solution for you. If you do this, it'll also help you build trust and authority with your ideal audience, which generates quite a bit of sales. 2 quick case studies for you. Skincare by Elena. I've known Elena and Jared for a while, husband and wife couple. They run the skincare site. It's amazing. You got to check it out. Through content marketing and SEO, they were able to grow their revenue by over 150% in 1 year. Organic traffic grew by 275%. In other words, their revenue and traffic climbed through a combination of SEO and content marketing, and the SEO was mainly driven through content. Here's another one. This was private label extensions. Similar to Skincare by Elena, their revenue increased from 3.1 million to 7.9 million. They were also on the Inc. 500 list, which is a list for the top 500 fastest growing companies in the United States. They were on it 2 years in a row. And of course, their SEO traffic increased by 400% over a 6-month period, which is amazing. When you're doing content marketing, if you don't understand your customers' problems, you won't do well. It's all about finding the balance between the keywords that you want to target with your site and the content. If you have content that blends in and adapts with those keywords and they flow together, you'll do well. But if your keywords clash with your content, you're going to have content, maybe people like it, but it won't rank. If you have keywords that are searched a lot, but you don't blend it in with your content, sure, search engines like it, but users won't like it. They won't read those pages. You'll have terrible user metrics like bounce rates, and you'll find that your pages won't rank on Google. When it comes to e-commerce, you need to know the journey, especially with content marketing, from discovering the potential problem to understanding it, to then figuring out solutions, to the type of product that you want to test the solution against, comparing your brand with other brands for the same type of product. You also want to search for discount codes, see if people are using content for that. You want to look for your product specifically, see if there's good content around that. And of course, creative applications for your product. And this one applies to innovative products specifically, right? And I'll go over examples of that in the upcoming lessons. Now, I don't want you to think content marketing is just for B2C. It also works well for B2B. Crazy Egg, one of the companies I co-founded, we were able to grow to over 100,000 users, and a lot of that had to deal with content marketing. As you can see, the traffic on Crazy Egg has continually risen. This is a screenshot from Ubersuggest. This is just from the organic search traffic. And when we first started Crazy Egg, before we launched, we were really interviewing people, trying to figure out the problems and creating content around how our tool, it was an analytics tool, still is, could be used to help people out. So for example, if you're doing A/B testing on your website to increase conversions, you can use Crazy Egg for that. And we would have articles on our blog talking about how you can use Crazy Egg to maximize your conversion rate. We, in essence, really drill down to our target audience, because if you don't drill down to your target audience, you're going to get your content wrong, and you're also going to get wrong on where they're hanging out. So for example, you don't always have to produce content for your own website. You can also publish on other people's websites. So we went to a lot of the design websites and galleries there, bought ads, and even published content there. And that helped us get a ton of traction, super effective. And a lot of people are like, you're not just publishing content on your own blog. And I'm like, yeah, because if my potential customers are reading other blogs that have millions of visitors, why wouldn't I try to get my content featured there as well? And I did that mainly through guest posting, which we'll go over in SEO Unlocked. But I also did that through press. You don't have to hire a PR agency. If you want, there's a guy named Chris Barrett, prserve.com. He's performance-based. If he gets you press, he charges you. If he doesn't charge you. And we created our own list of popular blogs, offered them a free account, helped them get our tool set up, and a lot of them just blogged on it. In other words, we got super creative. And creativity is a huge component in doing well with content marketing. What I want you to do is follow this process step by step, because I know not everyone has those creative juices flowing, and that's okay. So I figured out a formula, and we call it the Franklin's Law of Content Success, Benjamin Franklin, lightning. And with this formula, we found that even if you're not that creative, you don't have to worry. Just following this formula will get you results. So the first step in Franklin's Law of Content Success is string ideas. How do you find out your ideas? Which pages do you optimize first? How do you know what's already working? How do you know what your competition's focusing on? Well, you can grab your keyword ideas from the earlier modules that we covered in SEO Unlocked, because we already covered how to find those keywords. And within there, you'll have a list of keywords, and that should also give you some topics that you could go after as well. Another thing that we've also discussed is the musketeer intent. What type of keywords do you want to end up going after? A lot of times, if you're a newer website, low volume keywords under 1,000 visits are easier, quicker wins and can still provide an ROI. The higher volume terms, if you're more established, you have more authority, they can also do extremely well for you. But I recommend most of you start with the lower volume keywords that you filled out within your musketeer intent key plot points. Now that you have some keywords, you want to first figure out who you are, because not every company is the same. Let's say you're a sustainable clothing brand. You may want a certain look, feel, image. The same goes with your content, your keywords. Some content pieces may not match your image, your culture, your brand, so you wouldn't want to end up doing it. This is super important, especially at the beginning. You don't want to go off brand, because yes, it may drive traffic, but if it's off brand, it probably won't drive any sales. And this is both for B2B and B2C. An easy way is to figure out what's already working for your own website. If you have a new website, put in a competitor's name, go visit Ubersuggest, type in your site name, and head over to the Keywords tab in the left navigation sidebar. Again, if you have little to no traffic and you have a brand new site or you've done little to no SEO, put in a competitor's domain here, because when you add a competitor's domain name, you'll be able to see what's working for them, and it's a great place to start. This will take you to a page that shows you all the keywords that you're getting traffic for or your competition's getting traffic for, and it'll give you an idea on the right side of the report of who else is ranking, and it'll give you an essence of, all right, how much traffic can I get if I ranked higher? Is this keyword representative of my brand? Will it work well? So it's all great strategies when it comes to figuring out, here are the main keywords that we think are right fit or that are a bad fit. I also like looking at the top pages report in Ubersuggest, especially with my competition, because on the top pages report, you can end up clicking view all under estimated visits. It shows you all the keywords that the top pages on your competition's website is ranking for. This is important because it tells you what pages that you should consider replicating when it comes to content on your own website. And of course, you'll want to make yours better than the competition. When looking at the keywords that your competitors are ranking for, make sure that the keywords have good volume, they're driving good traffic, high CPC, and low SEO difficulty. If they meet those criteria, those keywords are the ones that are the most likely to convert into sales. Another report that you should look at is a content ideas report. If you put in a keyword within your space, it'll tell you all the popular blog posts that are already working well in your space based off of estimated visits from Google, social shares, and even how many other people are linking to them. This will all give you ideas of what's working and what's not. Another thing that I like looking at is the keyword ideas report. So in the left navigation of Ubersuggest, click on keyword ideas, and it'll show you all the other keywords that you could be going after. There's a related tab, there's a comparisons tab. This is great because the comparisons tab may show other keywords or other brands that people may be comparing you to. And as I mentioned earlier, with either the content ideas report or even the top pages, you can see all the backlinks pointing to a URL. You can click all the view all, and you can see who in your space is linking to the competitors that may link to you. And you want to go after these people and see if you can get them to link to you as well. In essence, all of this shows you and teaches you what's already working, because you don't want to recreate the wheel. Might as well already use what's working for your competition. And that's why I like doing things like looking at the backlinks report within Ubersuggest. It shows me all the people linking to my competition, and I try to create similar pages of the ones on my competitor sites, so that way I can hit up all these sites and get them to link back to me as well. And as I mentioned, top pages, really look at backlinks and social shares as well as estimated visits. When you combine all three of these metrics, you're much more likely to create pages that hit versus pages that only have one of these metrics, right? If a page only has high estimated visits but low backlinks and low social shares, it's not going to do as well as one that has all three. One thing that I want you to do is go and figure out what channels the content lives within. Head to Ubersuggest, search for your keyword term, review which sources are popular, and note them down. Because you may find that some of these pages and content pieces do really well on Facebook, while others do well on Pinterest. Well, if they do well on Facebook, now you know what content you should be targeting for Facebook. And if they do well on Pinterest, now you know, hey, these pieces of content will do better on Pinterest. Let me go and put them on Pinterest and not promote them on Facebook. Because if you're promoting content on Facebook that doesn't do well, and you keep pushing and promoting on Facebook, Facebook will be like, you keep promoting content that our users don't like. So even in the future, if you promote a content that our users would like, we're not going to show it because our algorithm is going to flag your account as low quality. Some last points before we get into the next section of Franklin's Law. I want you to take note of the content types that work and look at what content pieces that your competition has that you've never talked about. Also look at related topics. It's the related tab within the keyword ideas section. And don't forget to take advantage of video. Video is huge, especially on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. It's blowing up there altogether. And when you're looking at all these videos, content pieces, especially ones that your competition is using, go to their site and see how the comments and engagement are. If the comments and engagements are great, that's another sign that people love the content. We also have a worksheet for you. You can find it below, or if you're on a social channel watching this video, you can go to neilpatel.com/training and then head over to SEO Unlocked, and you'll be able to find it there. And this worksheet will help you generate the right ideas with the right titles. I like putting a lot of my competitor one in here that they've written, their traffic, their keyword count, and putting in their backlink information. This all helps me generate ideas for the future. The next step of Franklin's Law of Content Success is the target kite. What I want you to do now is head back over to Ubersuggest and put in some of the keywords, or start with mainly one keyword that your competition is ranking for that you want to go after. Click on the keyword ideas report, look for all the other suggestions, but more importantly, look on the right side who's ranking for it. Look at their pages of content, and when you click through to all their sites, it'll give you an idea of what they're doing successful and what you need to copy. And you can do the same thing through top pages. And in top pages, you would end up putting in a domain name of your competition. I know I've discussed this, but the reason I'm re-emphasizing this is if you don't do this, you're going to end up writing content that gets no traffic. And no one likes that feeling because it's a waste of time, energy, and even money. But when you go to the top pages and you're seeing, hey, my competition is ranking for these keywords, and you're seeing that page, click through and go to their website. Sometimes they won't have a heavy text-based page. It could be a lot of images. Everyone thinks that, hey, the best content pages are all text. Well, a lot of them have videos and images. Some of them even sell products. They don't always have text. You want to see what they have on their pages. Think about how you can make it better so you can beat them and create a better page. You want to really dive into their content. What would people like to see that would help them more on this page? Oh, are they selling a product or service? Is the cost clear? Is the benefits clear? Are the reviews clear? Well, if none of that's clear, you'll know how you can make it better. Or even if it's just an educational piece. Does it give step-by-step instructions? Are the instructions clear? Would I know how to replicate them through 1, 2, 3, 4? Do they need images or videos to help describe the steps, so then that way people can end up getting better results from reading that content and it could be more actionable? Keep all those things in mind because it'll help you produce better content. Again, some quick checks. When you're creating content on your own site, you want to also look at the keywords that your competitors are ranking for similar pages. And when you can, intertwine those keywords within your own content because it'll help you rank for those keywords as well. As I mentioned, you also want to check out reviews. Read all the reviews, see what customers think, because this will give you feedback on how to adjust your content, your service, your product, so it can be better than the competition. There's also another worksheet called Conquer Worksheet. This will help you conquer your competition. Make sure you fill it out. If you don't see it here below because you're on a social site and watching this video, you can go to neilpatel.com/training. Go to SEO Unlocked as a course, and then from there, when you go to the right video, you'll find all the files. The next step of Franklin's Law of Content Success is supercharged content. If you don't supercharge things, you won't get the results that you're looking for. So here's an example of supercharged content. As you can see, it's above and beyond. There's images, there's custom graphics. It's something that stands out and isn't the normal. That's an example of supercharged content. You want to download examples based on your industry. Google stuff. Look at the stuff in the content ideas report in Ubersuggest. Some of them will be that supercharged type of content. This is the type of stuff that is the gold standard that you want to copy. You don't want to copy them word for word. You want to do better than them, but you want to copy the concept of how they're going above and beyond with their quality. So what is supercharged content? It's in-depth and highly useful. Long form content like thousands and thousands of words that don't contain fluff, that are relevant, contains accurate data and insights. And when you're using this data and insights, you need to cite your sources. It stands out from the crowd and it satisfies a need or a want. That's supercharged content. You want to educate your reader. That's one of the simplest ways to supercharge your content. I love doing in-depth step-by-step walkthroughs and backing everything up with stats and data and citing my sources so people know I'm not full of it and everything that I'm telling them will help them get results. I also am not afraid of conflict. So when I write content and I have my opinion or a viewpoint, I'll stick with it. I won't go back and forth and flip-flop. I'll stick with my viewpoint even if people disagree with me. And that also helps create more comments, more social shares, more backlinks, and makes the content more popular, because when you polarize your audience, yes, you're going to get some people who hate you or who may disagree, not really hate, but more so disagree, but you're going to get a lot of people who strongly agree, and those are the people who are more likely to share. You also want to do research, very specific facts, data, insights. Make sure the stats aren't old. You can Google for this data. So anytime you're trying to include research within your content piece and you're not sure what to include, Google it. You'll end up finding a ton of relevant new data, and make sure you cite your sources. Just don't steal from other people. And this also proves and gives you more credibility over time, because people are like, Neil really knows what he's talking about. Look at all these stats and data points that he used, and he backed it up, so we know he's not full of it. Whenever you do a Google search for research, as long as you use the word stats or statistics or data at the end of your query, you'll find a lot of results that you can potentially pull from. Be careful with research though. If it's not a reputable source or they don't have a good reputation, it could be false information, and citing it could hurt your credibility in the long run. Here's an example of a case study that's using data. Harry's Marketing, what we learned from reverse engineering a $400 million startup. That's cool. It piques your interest. People are like, what did Harry's do? I want to copy that formula, especially if I'm a marketer. Another aspect that's huge is design. Pretty goes a long way on the web. But pretty that loads slow doesn't go a long way on the web. So it has to be pretty and minimalistic, in which the design doesn't just look good, make the content more readable, but also loads super fast. And if you can use design to help you out, you'll do really well. Logos are another great way to build up more trust and authority within your design. I just took a lot of trust seals from the web. You wouldn't be using them in the content, but if you look, probably wondering why, it's because they build trust. The same goes with stats and data and logos and other elements like that you put within the design of your content. Here's some pretty examples of nicely designed content pieces. These are just rule of thumbs as what you really want to end up looking for. Last but not least, in Franklin's Law of Content Success, is key personnel. You could try to do everything on your own, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that's how I started out. But as you grow, you want to be working with the team. And we use Trello for our team, and you can have researchers, writers, editors, and you can see that it's broken down in phases. And when you do this, it creates an easy, streamlined formula to create content at mass scale. Now, I don't do this for neilpatel.com because I only blog once a week, but if I was blogging 10 times a week or something like that, I would be using this process because it will allow me to scale. Writers, they typically like writing in Google Docs or WordPress, and that's fine. Have them outline first, because then it streamlines it. The last thing you want is a writer to write and then it not work out because you're just like, I don't like what they're writing. Well, if you had their outline first, you can stop them ahead of time if you don't like what they're producing. Then, of course, editors usually edit within WordPress. A lot of them use Grammarly, the Chrome extension. That also helps with the editing process. And if you want to hire people, don't worry. We'll go into that more in depth next week. As long as you follow everything in Franklin's formula, you'll have supercharged content that can rank well on Google. So now I have 3 action items for you before we end this lesson. 1, I want you to download the ideas title sheet and create 5 target pages to beat. 2, find 3 data sources that are relevant for your industry. That way you can source people and cite them. And of course, last but not least, download our examples of supercharged content. That way you have an understanding of what to produce and what not to. Again, if you need these files, you can head over to neilpatel.com/training, go to SEO Unlocked, and you'll be able to see all the files and lessons there. It's under each video. Thank you for watching. I look forward to continually educating you and helping you get loved by Google.